The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome, everybody. It's another award-winning edition of Keefer and Kurre. I just saw Tony Kurre pop up. It's the one, the only. Yeah, I was looking at a blank screen. I guess I just rambled on need to know. I told you everything you need to know. And this is kind of an extension of that, Tony, and I'm really fascinated. We have not talked about the subject. I told you I had something, and I really just want your gut reaction because I've been doing a lot of thinking about this. And I don't know how you're going to answer the question. I really haven't gotten in my mind my answer. But with this government and all these appointments that Donald Trump has already made, a month and a half ahead of what the pace that he did last time, because he learned his lesson. He's going to go there on hour one with his team ready to go. And one of the things they want to do, and one of the things they're pledged to doing, this government has kept secrets from all the American people for years and years. John F. Kennedy was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963. Tony, they still got files sealed because of it's a national security issue. And let's do the math. 1963, this is 2024. That was 61 years ago. Nobody's alive that's in those reports. The whole thing is ridiculous. But here's the question I want to ask you. Of course, another big secret thing, and Congress has just started to dabble around this, and of course, they won't tell you anything specific, but the investigation into extraterrestrial activity, into unexplained phenomenons. I think they call them UAPs now. We used to call them UFOs. But there is boodles and files and video and photos and secret government operations, and people that Trump's appointing are saying everything's going to be opened up, everything's going to be transparent. So my question to you, Tony Kurre, is the following: if they actually share all the information on UFOs, UAPs, theories of are there actually other people in the universe, extraterrestrials? Is that something you want to know, or are you uncomfortable to get that information?
Wow, what a great question. First of all, we're still looking for JFK's brain, right? Isn't that any the one they had the brain taken out? It's missing. They put it in a foot locker somewhere, and the next morning
it's in a bus station in Topeka, I think.
It's probably hanging out with Walt Disney's frozen body. I think we're ready. I know you watch Ancient Aliens. And
I do.
I tried so hard not to watch that show because it can be so over the top. But you have the defensive ministry from the UK on the show, and he was, of course, the minister there for 13, 14 years. I mean, you got some notoriety, you got some respect there, right? You got some people that know what they're talking about, and you got former military men who have claimed that they've seen the bodies and that they've seen the wreckage and that they felt the wreckage. And so I don't have any doubt in my mind that there are ETs, that we have had flying saucers, that we have had wrecks on our Earth. I have no doubt that there's too many people that have seen things that are too strange. And of course, when they came out with, of course, and I forget who it was who actually came out and said that he had actually seen or actually touched one of the bodies when they got in front of Congress a few months ago, and kind of came clean on the stuff. And of course, they didn't come fully clean on everything. We still think the Roswell thing was an air balloon. The reason they keep saying that they won't tell us is because they don't think we can handle the truth. That there will be mass chaos.
Yeah,
and I'm so glad.
And that's why I asked the question.
I'm so glad.
What is going to be the reaction of Keefer, Tony Kurre, and everybody else we know if they say, "Yeah, we're not alone in the universe. Here's the evidence. Here's what we've been doing." Area 51. Me and you are paying for this government top secret. Do you know, Tony? Every morning in Las Vegas, nobody lives at Area 51. No. You report to the airport, and they put the employees on a plane every morning, just like getting on a bus, and they fly them the 2 hours north to Area 51, and at the end of the day, they fly them back.
They fly them home.
That's how that
crazy.
Works.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. I think it was.
Don't we deserve to know what the hell's going on? But if we do know, how are we going to handle it?
You know what? I don't think we could. I don't think it's that we can't handle it. I just don't know how we would unveil it. My biggest question to you is, let me ask you this question. Do you believe that there are extraterrestrials that live among us right now?
I certainly can't rule it out. I don't have
I'm telling you, they're like three or four of my friends, man, and I swear there's just something not right. And listen, I think we're all a little autistic. I really think we're all on the spectrum. I really do. My son is. I know
Yeah.
I'm on the spectrum. But there's some people that just aren't right. And I don't think it's Asperger's. I think it's because they're not from here. And I'm not so sure they don't know they're not from here.
Yeah, well,
That's
that's what I
the
was
other
going to
thing.
say, Tony. I'm not sure I'm not one of them.
I'm not sure I'm not either. I really don't. I think the extraterrestrials that are among us, and I believe that's true, I don't think they know they're extraterrestrials. So I don't. So that point is not like, it's not one of these things where, okay, you've got ETs living among you now, find out who they are. They don't know. So there's no reason for us not to know. I think we're ready. I mean, I would like to think that by the end of my life, in 40 or 50 more years, that we will know finally the truth. But I think regardless of whether we think it's the truth or not, I think we already know. Now, I'm not going to say I'm looking at pictures of Mars and I see the face on Mars and they've got the pyramid on Mars. I'm not saying there's too many amazing things that weighed way too damn much to move,
Oh,
including
yeah.
including the pyramids, including Easter Island. There are way too many things that weigh 60 million tons that there's no way a human being could have rolled that thing over the course of 300 miles through the Alps in order to create some type of monument. It's impossible. So something had to elevate these things. And I'm not even so sure about the land of the giants. I don't even know if the giants would have been big enough to move these rocks, right?
Yeah.
So is there something in our past that moved those things? Yeah. I mean, even in the Bible, it
What?
speaks of the chariot, the
And
chariot
Tony,
on the fire
even
that
if
comes
that
from the
was
sky.
possible, I mean, you're making a great point on the pyramids and these superstructures from the early centuries. Here's the thing: even if you had 5 million people, which you can't even with a mass of people take a giant block of stone and get it to the heights that they were able to create. But here's the thing: it just tells me that this is just, you can't explain that just by sheer human force, because these buildings, people will tell you from a mathematics and schematic standpoint, are geometrically perfect.
Perfect.
You can't just go out and build something that is conceived, that now would take the most sophisticated computer to even construct. It's just not a plausible explanation. This was sheer human
They didn't
force.
have laser cutters back in the 1400s. I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. I mean, I think there's something there. Yeah.
Yeah, and how is it that these structures in Egypt almost are identical to ones from the Aztec and Inca empires in South America? I mean, they're almost from a construction standpoint, and again the geometric standpoint, almost identical to those other ones built on the other side of the world. How is that possible?
And that is even knowing, my two sons are from Guatemala. I've been down there 3 times, and I went through the entire culture of the Mayan society and what they've done with there's more pyramids in Guatemala than there is in Egypt. Right. So
Amazing.
The Mayan society, that's what they're all about. Now, we're not talking about pyramids that are, 600-700 feet tall. But you can see how many people it would have taken. You want to talk about slave trade then? How many people would have taken to build things like that? I'm not saying that it's not possible to build these things. It's just not. It's impossible that we could have built in some type. Even the course of 10, I think they said it would take 1,000 people, 24 hours a day, 10 years to build. So whatever it takes, it's just too heavy. So I believe, and I'm not so sure from an extraterrestrial standpoint, because I do think there is a smarter being out there. We always keep thinking about, everything out there's got to be smarter than us. What if it's a lot dumber than we are?
Yeah, it could, very well could be.
Do we really want them to find that golden disc? I mean, and find out where we live? Do we really want? I mean, we always kind of think that we must be the dumb ones. Maybe they're the dumb ones.
Yeah.
But I do think I think there's I really believe in electromagnetism. I'm not saying I don't believe there's another Earth inside or the core of the Earth. I don't think there's an Amazon jungle with dinosaurs at the top of the Antarctic Circle. I don't believe that. I do think there's a big hole up there. I'm not sure what's in it, but It's really interesting. And I'm so glad you brought it because there's a good friend of mine. His name is Andrew Golf, Gough. He has been on Mysteries of the Abandoned. He's been on the Mysteries of the Factories. He's done all these shows. He works for the Heretic the magazine. He's the chief editor there, and he's an adventurer, and he's a scientist. And I've had him on numerous times, and he firmly believes that we're looking in the wrong place for extraterrestrials, that there's a lot more beneath us than there is on top of us. He said we should be looking down, not up. And he firmly believes that there are plenty of areas. And I mean, we're still finding thousands and thousands of tunnels, for God's sakes, in Germany from World War II.
Oh, yeah.
That was built by man. So
not only that,
just imagine what's underground.
So much of the earth is oceans and seas, and we've only really charted and explored just a minuscule amount of that. So if it, that's another plausible thing, because there's been a lot of sightings and mysterious crafts and things that just plunge into the sea and disappear. All of this, people listen to this. A lot of people will just dismiss this, that you and I are a couple of Looney Tunes. Anybody who dares speak of this is kind of put in that bucket. But let me ask you this, because this is really because I'm kind of a deep thinker, and I started thinking, if I did have this revelation that there's a strong likelihood that we're not alone in this universe, does it, and this is a touchy question that I don't think I've heard anybody else pose, but does this challenge our perception of our beginnings, of our gods and of our God, and really kind of rattle the spiritual faith of Americans or anybody in the world that are devout Christians or Muslims or Jews or whatever their faith is, that if there are people and there are beings from other worlds, does our God get credit for that too, or does that call all of that into question?
Well, as being a God-fearing individual, and you know where I stand with my God and Savior, it doesn't change anything. Now, can it change things? Can it change the way and the questions you have about the Bible and some of the stories you've read? Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt, and I think it's okay to question that, but it still doesn't mean that we don't have one Creator and He could have created it all.
Yeah, well, that's the question, and that's fascinating.
We think we know what Adam and Eve look like, but hell, they could have had 3 heads. I don't know. Christians or Catholic would tell you that that's just another way to interpret the Bible and its readings. There's a different way of doing that. There's plenty in the Bible that talks about chariots of fire and talk about the 6-headed dinosaurs.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's there's some things in there that sound like Muppets, for God's sakes. And that goes beyond, Jonah in the stomach of the whale and how in the hell, Noah got 2 of everything on earth to put it on a boat for 40 days.
Yeah.
But if you're a believer, you're a believer, and that's just the way it is. And so that's also a part of the mysteries of the Bible. They talk about the mysteries of the Bible, and it's something that faith is the belief in things that are unseen.
Well,
because the wind blows and you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So, but let me ask you this, because I don't want to forget about this. Say they came out today and they said, we have extraterrestrial bodies that have been dead since the 40s or 50s.
Yeah, Roswell's 1948.
I don't think anyone's going to be surprised. I don't think anyone's going to go.
I think most Americans probably believe Roswell was legitimate.
And I would say there's about a 95% chance there's something out there because there's just too many. There are too many eyeballs. There's too many people that could tell the truth on this. And I don't know how many times I've heard about the stories of the men in black who have shown up and said, "Listen, you say something about this, we're gonna have some bad news." The next thing you know, they're out there on the news, and that person's gone in about a week and a half.
Yeah.
So I firmly believe a lot of that. I don't think that's cocky pop, but if in fact we know that there have been extraterrestrials or Martians that have landed on this earth or crashed into this earth, and we know that to be true, so we're going to go, okay, so all these things that we can't identify could be possible UFOs. And again, UFO doesn't mean it's an extraterrestrial thing, just means it's something we see, we don't recognize what it is. What does that change? Do all of a sudden we bring back NASA and do we start exploring the universe again? What would that change if you knew for sure that there are 2 dead extraterrestrials out in Roswell? What would that do? What do you think how the world would react to that?
I just think it's going to shake humanity to its core, because there's so many people that just have poo-pooed this for years. Oh no, this is just science fiction, fantasy. If this really becomes a established fact that we are not alone in this universe, I'm just wondering what kind of chaos and mental just devastation it's going to create on just the average person's psyche, because I think all of us have been conditioned to be aware of this and have questions and think about it, but to be confronted with actual proof that it exists, I just don't know if we're ready to handle that, and that goes back to the original question.
I think the only way we find out is to do it.
Yep.
And I don't know when. I mean, outside another arrival or another crash, it's hard to believe that depending on how long these extraterrestrials have existed, and at least if you believe in the moving of all these stones and everything, it's been hundreds, if not thousands of years. Then you're telling me we only had one crash? I mean, I believe there was another crash in the early 50s that they still try to cover up too. You mean to tell me there's only been two crashes ever in the history of the world? I mean, so that's certainly a question. You go, wait a minute, something just doesn't jive right here. So, maybe this is a civilization that was here hundreds or maybe thousands of years ago, but doesn't exist anymore.
Well, I mean, this planet's been here for 4.5 billion years.
We're a blip. I mean, we're a pimple on the ass of life. Man.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
So we've got billions and billions, or like 3.5 billion years that are totally unaccounted for. We don't really know anything about the formation of this planet and what the early forms of life were. I'm just playing with all these ideas. First of all, I don't believe, even with the assurances from the new government wave here, that they're going to open the books and share everything with the American people. I'll believe that when I see it. Yeah. Even Trump last time pledging that to open up all these secret files and all these things from the 60s.
You notice how every president, Clinton did that too. Barack Obama was on national TV and said, "Listen, if I become president, I'll open up everything." They never do.
And that, somebody prevents it. They go up there with all these bravado intentions, and it never happens. So first of all, I'll be shocked if we start seeing things that we've never been allowed to see. Again, the Kennedy assassination is absolutely ridiculous, because everybody has an opinion of what happened on that November day in 1963. But for the fact that because there was a deadline, I forgot the number of years, 49 years or whatever, before they could unseal and release those files. When that date arrived in the first year of the Trump administration, they only released about 30% of those files when they were supposed to open those up to everybody. Yep. So I think this government still has enough forces behind the scenes that even convince the sitting chief executives that you can't release all this stuff, because it's going to create a perception. Because I imagine that there's a lot of facets of our government in the real files from the actual investigation, the Kennedy assassination. We have the Warren Commission report was just a political snow job. Mm-hmm. They didn't even interview hundreds of pertinent people. They just Lyndon Johnson for a political maneuver. I'm not going to say Johnson was delighted with the Kennedy assassination, but it finally let him achieve the dream he had to be president, and he was not going to be president any other way. But so the Warren Commission is baloney, and we've gotten off the subject, but it is on the subject from the standpoint was, I think this government is always going to think it can conceal things from the American people for their own good, but really it's for the good of the establishment and the machines that are running everything. They don't want the American people completely up to date. They want to keep us in the dark.
We all want to be part of something bigger in life. And could you imagine how many people would come out and say that they've been abducted, or that they've seen UFOs? I mean, it would be, Henry Aaron, when he hit, number 715, there were 3 million people at the ballpark that day. Everyone was there to see that home.
But I was actually there.
I know you were actually there. And I've heard people say I was there. And I was like, really? Can you tell me, was that really Craig Sager that ran around there? I mean, there were three, if you ask anybody, there were 3 million people there. Everybody want to be part of something bigger. And so Well, I'm going to throw something out, and I'm going to catch hell for this. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Bring it on. I'm Catholic. I believe, and I've believed this for quite some time, that there is proof of all this and more, not in Washington, D.C., but in the archives of Vatican City.
Oh, I agree completely.
I think there are some things down in the Pope's basement that would blow your head away. That would
there's
make
no
us,
doubt.
that are so far ill conceived or ill received, if you would, that we have no clue about. That would just blow us out of the water. And I believe it has to do with a lot of extraterrestrial things that quite frankly we don't do. The other thing, and you brought this up, and I love talking about this. And I'll get, if you want, I'll get Andrew Golf on you, dude.
I think
I've mentioned
awesome.
this before. I should get him on the starting lineup because he is. But the problem is we have a 30-minute show. You could go. I would sit back and watch. I would watch just you and him speak. I would sit out just to see the kind of questions you could come up with, Andrew, because I think that would be just about fascinating, because he's a historian, much like yourself, and I think it'd be a fantastic interview to see you and him go after it. But if you are going to admit then that we have extraterrestrials, that we actually had Martians or something come here, could you imagine what that does for the Loch Ness Monster and the Bigfoot community? I mean, those are things that people, Loch Ness, not so much. I mean, we've dredged the bottom of that thing 3 or 4 times and we haven't seen anything.
Yeah, Nelly hasn't
but there are
quite
like
a while.
Everything from the skunk monster to, I mean, everyone believes at some point that maybe, hell, we know the Russians at one point were taking women and mating them with goats and doing strange things in World War I and World War II. So, I mean, there's no telling what kind of 4 or 5-legged things you just sprinkle a little Chernobyl in there. Who knows what the hell is coming out of Russia?
Oh, boy.
But I mean, when you're talking about Bigfoot and how many people actually believe it exists, could you imagine how many? Because there's a lot of people, Kip, and if you watched Ancient Aliens, I'm going to tell you something you already know. They're saying that there is some type of commonality between Bigfoot and extraterrestrials, in that Bigfoot may be an ET, and that whenever you see one, you normally see the other. I don't know. I don't know how you'd want to double dip on that. But yeah, the Bigfoot people will be going crazy because they go, hey, hello, we've been saying this for years, because you can put those 2 peas in a pot.
Well, the provocative question still stands. Do you want to know? And I think most Americans would just, from a knee-jerk reaction, say, yeah, I want to know. But on the other hand, think about that a little bit more in depth. Everybody who's listening to this, get in touch with Tony and give us your opinion, because I just think it would rock the foundations of a lot of things that we think we know, or that we think that we believe in. And I'm not sure that I want that box opened. Yeah. Because I think it could be really unsettling, and I think it could be something that people would actually if they're panicking over an election, if they're seeking, there's people on the left right now saying, if any of your family voted for this guy, you need to disassociate from them. You don't have to spend time with them or go to family outings and things. If they're that nuts, what is this information going to do? I fear there's going to be panic in the streets.
I think that's what makes living, though, so much fun, is the fact that, and I'll even throw conspiracies in there, the fact that some people believe there's actually no birds. We know they're birds, but they're saying they're all computer. I think it makes life a lot fun. I was watching a Curious George episode with my daughter several years ago, and there was a Halloween episode that came on about this scarecrow that evidently had a pumpkin head, and that its head came off, and the myth was that its head had blown off, and it rolled through town, and it terrorized the town, and blah 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 blah. And this myth went on for years and years and years. And so they would talk about it, and they would have a festival around it. And by the end of the show, you actually know the truth. But the people that know the truth never told anybody because they wanted the myth to live. Mm-hmm. That's the fun of living the myth. That's why we love Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy and all these things that we believe in. And I still believe in all 3 of those, believe it or not. And people think I'm crazy. I do. I believe spiritually, mythically, that they still exist, because I don't think we can afford not to believe that there's something bigger than us.
That's well said.
That does good things like that. So, maybe we're better off not knowing if Bigfoot is real or Loch Ness Monster is real or if we have extraterrestrials in Roswell, just because if we don't know for sure, then we can always say it exists.
I'm thinking about Independence Day when Will Smith confronts the alien, and when the pops its head out of its wrecked his wrecked ship and looks up, Will Smith hits him with a right hook and says, "Welcome to Earth."
Hey, don't forget to join us again. Great topic, by the way. The starting lineup. Love doing this. You and me. 6-0, baby. I think that's the first time. Now, last year, man, I mean, almost every single week, you and I were going 1-0.
We were given one game and we were on a roll. But
yeah, we were on a roll.
And people need to remember, we're just not picking straight up like they do on game day. No. We're picking against the spread for our two best bets. And the other one is really difficult. You've got to find a team that's an underdog that wins the game outright.
Or it counts as a loss.
Yeah, we were right last week about Utah. They covered the 4-point spread, but they lost in heartbreaking fashion. I went right back against BYU this week and took the Kansas Jayhawks, and look what happened. So
I had Air Force against the Beavs catching 3.
That was Air Force squad. And I give you credit. That was a great call because you were really emphatic on that. You had great stats to back up your pick, and Air Force clobbered Oregon State as an underdog.
And this is where we separate the guys who throw the darts and that woman back in HR who does a March Madness bracket and wins it every 3 years.
Yeah.
And the people like us who are handicappers, because for us, the more information we get, the better we get. We get better throughout the year. And any other gambler, it's just the opposite. Vegas will tell you that the better wins the first third. You're even the second third. The last third, the bowl season, when you think you should know everything, the better gets killed. It gets absolutely annihilated. You and I are just the opposite. The more information we get. And by the way, your son, Case, and I got to throw Legend in there because he's been hot as hell too. It's unbelievable. Well. I think I'm the only one out of the four of us that's under 500. That's amazing. I mean, it really is. Go out there and go pick 50 games and see if you go 25-25. It's literally impossible. But the fact that we ball on fire. So I'm super excited. And with bowl season coming up, and then we got the Super Bowl. I know we're going to continue to do the show. We got March Madness coming up. It's going to be an unbelievable season. So check us out, 10:30. And by the way, we usually record our shows on Thursdays. Next Thursday, of course, being Thanksgiving, we're going to double up. So we will be live. We'll be doing our show every Saturday morning, 10:30 to 11 o'clock. The Iron Bowl's coming up. It's been a great season, my friend.
Yep, absolutely. And the best is yet to come with all the drama of the college football playoff, where everybody's going to land. And man, I'm on my shows on Jocks 94.5 here in Birmingham. I'm on fire on who teams have played and where they've played. It's not the NFL. It doesn't go by win-loss record because there's such a disparity in schedules. There's so much great stuff to talk about, and our shows all across the board, radio, television, and here on TKR are blowing up, and you need to get on the bandwagon.
I'll get Andrew Goff on our next show. How's that?
That sounds fantastic.
He's 6 hours ahead of us. He's over in London, and I've had him on several times, and he's just an absolute joy. So we may do a Keefer and Kurre, like an extended version, because it'll take at least an hour. You will be amazed by some of the things. I mean, he's done everything from the round table to the chalice. I mean, you name it, he's been part of it. If you just look up Andrew Goff, he's just an absolutely amazing guy. So we'll do that. Hey, brother, I appreciate you, man, and we'll look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
All right, Tony, it's been fun.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curre Radio.